Falls among elderly people are not mere isolated accidents that happen by chance. They have become a true public health problem in Brazil and worldwide, with numbers that are alarming in their severity and yet often go unnoticed by society. In just the first 4 months of 2025, more than 62,000 hospitalizations were recorded as a result of falls involving people over the age of 60. This data, extracted from official surveys by the Ministry of Health and complemented by recent bulletins from the Unified Health System, places falls at the same level of impact as a large-scale traffic accident, except that they occur inside the home, the place that should theoretically be the safest. The weight of these numbers highlights that we are facing a silent epidemic, a phenomenon that does not appear in the headlines with the same prominence as other diseases or tragedies, but that remains constant, leaving a trail of sequelae, disabilities, and preventable deaths. The parallel with traffic accidents is crucial for the public to understand the magnitude of the problem. While massive campaigns daily warn about seatbelt use, traffic lights, and the dangers of speeding, very little is said about the risks of a slippery bathroom floor, a loose rug in the bedroom, or poor hallway lighting. The comparison demonstrates that the risk is equally real, but even more treacherous, as it hides within domestic routines. While in traffic we are naturally alert and prepared to defend ourselves, at home we relax, forgetting that the environment can be hostile to those who have lost muscle mass, have more fragile bones, or suffer from the natural reduction of reflexes and balance that accompany aging. From an economic standpoint, the burden on the health system is also alarming. Each hospitalization due to a fall represents not only days of hospital bed occupancy, but also costly surgeries, prosthetics, prolonged physiotherapy, and even home adaptations after discharge. It is estimated that the annual costs of the unified health system with this type of occurrence easily exceed billions of reais, resources that could be redirected toward prevention if awareness were greater. The impact goes beyond public finances. Entire families are affected, as an elderly person who suffers a severe fall may lose autonomy and require continuous care, radically changing the routine of children and grandchildren. Thus, each fall is not just an individual event, but a rupture in the social, emotional, and economic balance of an entire family. Furthermore, the severity of falls lies in their ability to trigger a domino effect on the overall health of elderly individuals. A hip fracture, for example, can lead to prolonged immobility, which in turn causes even faster muscle mass loss, pressure ulcers, respiratory infections, and even depression from the loss of independence. The cycle is cruel and often irreversible, which makes each fall a potential threat to life itself. It is no coincidence that geriatric specialists affirm that a fall can be the starting point of an accelerated decline, shortening life expectancy indirectly, even when the initial accident is not fatal. The importance of bringing these numbers into public debate lies precisely in breaking the mistaken idea that falls are inevitable or that they are part of aging. Aging itself does not condemn anyone to falling. What increases the risk are environmental barriers, the lack of home preparation, the absence of strengthening exercises, and the lack of knowledge about prevention measures. The data from 2025 not only reveals the scale of the problem, but also points to an opportunity. If we can identify that 62,000 falls were enough to fill hospitals in just 4 months, we can work to drastically reduce that number with simple, inexpensive, and effective measures, many of which can be implemented in a single weekend. This shift in mindset can transform falls from a silent enemy into a controlled risk. Falls among elderly people have far more severe consequences than in younger individuals because the body after the age of 60 no longer responds in the same way to impacts, trauma, and recovery periods. Natural aging brings profound changes to bone structure, muscle strength, reflexes, and even vision, making each stumble a real threat to autonomy and quality of life. What might seem like a simple slip for someone in their 30s or 40s can, in an elderly person, result in a hip fracture, prolonged hospitalization, and the permanent loss of the ability to walk unaided. That is why falls among elderly people are not just domestic accidents but true risk events that can mark the beginning of a trajectory of growing and irreversible frailty. Sarcopenia, the progressive loss of muscle mass, plays a central role in this scenario. Even active elderly individuals suffer some degree of this natural process, And when sedentary behavior, poor diet, or chronic diseases are added, muscle weakening accelerates. This means that the muscles, which act as the body's natural shock absorbers, no longer provide the same protection against impacts, leaving bones and joints much more exposed. In addition, osteoporosis, which affects millions of Brazilians over 60, weakens bones, significantly increasing the risk of serious fractures even in seemingly minor falls. It is as if the elderly body lives in a constant state of vulnerability, where every imbalance can generate disproportionate consequences. Another decisive factor is linked to the nervous system and balance. With age, the body's response speed to stimuli decreases, meaning reflexes are no longer as fast. An elderly person who trips cannot support themselves or react in time to prevent the fall and often ends up falling unprotected. Vision problems, common after 60 years, such as cataracts, macular degeneration, or even incorrect eyeglass use, worsen the situation even more as they make it difficult to perceive obstacles on the floor, steps, and uneven surfaces. This means that in addition to physical fragility, there are also sensory limitations that make every environment potentially dangerous. The consequences of a fall in this age group often extend for months or years. A hip fracture, for example, requires complex surgery, prolonged physiotherapy, and often home adaptations, such as walkers or wheelchairs. Medical statistics indicate that 1/3 of elderly people who suffer hip fractures do not fully recover their mobility, and a significant portion never walk independently again. This generates a profound psychological impact, as the loss of autonomy brings feelings of incapacity, constant fear of new falls, and even depression. The cycle closes in a cruel way. Fear generates immobility. Immobility increases muscle weakness, and weakness further elevates the risk of new falls. It is also important to highlight the indirect mortality associated with falls. Many elderly individuals do not die from the accident itself, but from subsequent complications such as hospital infections, embolisms, pneumonia, and progressive loss of functional capacity. Thus, an apparently minor event can, within a few months, lead to a sequence of fatal complications. When we look at the numbers coldly, we realize that falls are among the leading causes of preventable deaths in people over the age of 60. This reality reinforces the need to address falls not as an inevitable domestic accident, but as a serious condition that can and should be prevented with the same rigor as cardiovascular diseases or cancer. For all these reasons, speaking about falls in old age means speaking about a dividing line between living with autonomy and facing an early process of dependence. Understanding this seriousness is the first step for families, caregivers, and elderly individuals themselves to see prevention as an absolute priority. Every safety measure adopted is not just a household detail, but true protection against a risk that can change lives in a matter of seconds. When it comes to falls among elderly people, the most common image is that of an accident caused by something obvious, such as slipping on a wet floor or missing a step. But the reality is that most falls inside the home are caused by invisible triggers, small details that go unnoticed in daily life, but together form a true silent trap. These triggers are present in most Brazilian homes, regardless of economic status, and can be responsible for up to 80% of accidents reported in hospitals. They are simple yet dangerous elements that only become evident once they have already caused harm. That is why identifying and eliminating these critical points is the main strategy to transform the home into a safe environment for those over 60 years old. The first invisible trigger is the paicur loose rug. Culturally present in Brazilian households, rugs are often seen as decorative or comfortable items, but for the elderly, they are silent enemies. A simple fold in the fabric or lack of grip on the floor can turn into an obstacle that catches the foot and causes immediate imbalance. Fluffy rugs, which look soft and cozy, are even more dangerous because they make stepping firmly more difficult. Many studies show that removing rugs from circulation or securing them with anti-slip tape significantly reduces fall rates. What may seem like a simple aesthetic detail is, in practice, one of the biggest causes of serious accidents. The second trigger is insufficient lighting, especially at night. With aging, the eyes need up to 3 times more light to perceive details of the environment compared to a young person. This means that a poorly lit hallway, a staircase without light points, or even getting up at night without turning on a lamp exponentially increases the risk of tripping and falling. Many homes still rely on weak light bulbs or central fixtures that do not illuminate corners where obstacles lie. The solution in this case is simple and inexpensive: installing additional lighting points, automatic night lights, or even low-intensity LED bulbs that consume little energy and provide 24-hour safety. The third trigger is inappropriate footwear. Many elderly people continue the habit of wearing loose flip-flops, slippery sandals, or even walking barefoot inside the house. This seemingly comfortable practice is an invitation to imbalance. Inadequate footwear compromises stability, increases the risk of slipping, and does not provide support for a body with reduced reflexes. Doctors and physiotherapists recommend wearing closed shoes with non-slip soles and firm heel support, even inside the home, to ensure every step is safe. It may seem like a small change, but the impact on prevention is enormous. The fourth trigger is the uneven or poorly marked step. Stairs, thresholds, and level differences of just a few centimeters are responsible for a large portion of domestic accidents in the elderly. Often, these points are so incorporated into the home routine that they go unnoticed. But for someone with slower reflexes and compromised vision, any difference in floor level can cause an immediate fall. The absence of handrails, uneven floors, or steps with little traction makes the problem worse. Adding anti-slip strips, marking step edges, and installing sturdy handrails are essential measures to mitigate this risk. The fifth and final invisible trigger is the inadequate arrangement of furniture. Poorly organized homes with narrow hallways, poorly positioned coffee tables, or excess objects in the way create unnecessary obstacles that become tripping hazards. Since many elderly people need support when walking or use canes and walkers, any poorly placed furniture can block passage and cause imbalance. The recommendation is to reorganize the space, creating wide and accessible walkways, removing unnecessary furniture, and prioritizing free circulation. This ensures the elderly can move around safely without facing mazes inside their own home. These 5 triggers, loose rugs, insufficient lighting, inadequate footwear, poorly marked steps, and poorly arranged furniture, may seem like small details, but when ignored, they become a minefield for the elderly. The most important thing is to understand that all of them can be eliminated or corrected quickly, at low cost, and without major renovations. This is the first concrete step to reducing the risk of falls and transforming the home into a truly protective space for those facing the vulnerabilities of aging. The bathroom is, without a doubt, the most dangerous room in the house for an elderly person. Despite being a frequently used and seemingly harmless environment, it concentrates the most lethal combination of risk factors: constantly wet floors, smooth surfaces, reduced space, and lack of sturdy supports. This is the place where most severe domestic falls occur, often resulting in hip fractures, head trauma, and prolonged hospitalizations. The vulnerability increases because in the bathroom, the elderly person is usually alone, without the immediate presence of family or caregivers to help. A simple slip can turn into a serious emergency in a matter of seconds. That is why understanding and applying a specific checklist for this space is essential to eliminate risks and transform the bathroom from a villain into an ally of safety. The first point of the checklist is the installation of grab bars in strategic places. This is not a luxury or optional accessory, but a safety item as important as a seatbelt in a car. The bars should be fixed to the wall next to the toilet to help with sitting and standing, and inside the shower stall, ensuring stability when entering and exiting. Ideally, they should be made of stainless steel with non-slip surfaces, firmly installed, and capable of supporting body weight without the risk of detachment. Studies show that the mere presence of grab bars reduces bathroom falls by up to 40%. The second point is the use of non-slip floors and mats. Traditional ceramic tiles, common in bathrooms, turn into ice rinks when wet, exponentially increasing the risk of slipping. To minimize this danger, the ideal is to use non-slip coverings or apply films that increase floor grip. In addition, rubber mats with suction cups inside the shower are indispensable as they prevent slipping during bathing. Outside the shower, fluffy rugs should be replaced with versions with rubber bases that stick to the floor, eliminating the risk of displacement. The third point of the checklist is the Adjustment of the toilet. Many elderly people have difficulty sitting or standing from the toilet, and this poorly executed maneuver can result in sudden falls. To reduce effort and increase safety, it is recommended to install elevated seats, which reduce the distance between standing and sitting positions, along with lateral supports to facilitate movement. This simple adjustment reduces joint overload and the chance of imbalance. Another crucial point is the inclusion of shower chairs. Standing throughout the bath can be exhausting and dangerous for elderly people with motor limitations or balance problems. A sturdy plastic or aluminum chair designed for wet environments allows the person to sit and bathe safely. This resource prevents falls due to fatigue, dizziness, or slips during movement. It is recommended that the chair always be used along with grab bars for maximum stability. Bathroom lighting should also receive special attention. Many falls occur because elderly people go to the bathroom at night in poorly lit environments, unable to properly see the floor and obstacles. Installing automatic night lights or switches near the bed and entrance is a simple measure that prevents risks. White LED lamps with low energy consumption can light the space without disturbing sleep, ensuring safety during nighttime use. Finally, organization of the space count should not be overlooked. Shampoo bottles, soap and towels left on the floor or in hard-to-reach places are accident invitations. Ideally, shelves should be kept at waist height, avoiding the need for the elderly to bend down or stretch excessively. This practical organization reduces risky movements and increases autonomy. By applying this checklist, grab bars, non-slip floors and mats, adjusted toilet, shower chair, reinforced lighting, and practical organization, the bathroom ceases to be a minefield and becomes an environment adapted for longevity. It is a relatively low-cost investment, but with incalculable impact on quality of life, independence, and the prevention of hospitalizations. Each adjustment in this space can mean the difference between living safely or facing the consequences of a fall that could have been prevented. The kitchen is one of the most used rooms in the house, and paradoxically, also one of those that hide the most traps for people over 60 years old. Unlike the bathroom, where the danger is obvious due to water and slippery floors, the kitchen concentrates more subtle risks, linked to the arrangement of furniture, the height of cabinets, objects scattered on the floor, and even the type of utensils used. It is in this space that many elderly people spend a significant part of the day, whether preparing meals or carrying out simple tasks, which increases exposure to risks. The combination of physical effort, constant movement, and handling utensils creates a series of triggers that may seem minor, but are behind thousands of falls recorded every year. The first critical point in the kitchen is the organization of surfaces and the floor. Pots, broomsticks, containers, and even plastic bags left on the ground act as silent obstacles. For those with slower reflexes and compromised balance, a simple stumble can turn into a serious fall. Ideally, the floor should always be clear, with fixed places for each object, avoiding improvisation. The rule is simple: nothing should remain on the kitchen floor except what is essential for walking. The second point involves slippery countertops. While preparing food, it is common for water, oil, or food residues to fall onto the floor, making the surface slippery and dangerous. Many falls occur precisely in this context, when the elderly person moves distractedly and steps on something slippery. To prevent accidents, it is recommended to use anti-slip mats in front of the sink and stove, and always keep cleaning cloths nearby to dry any spills immediately. Small habit changes, such as cleaning while cooking, make all the difference in prevention. Another essential point is the height of cabinets and shelves. Many kitchens were designed without considering the accessibility of elderly people, with overhead cabinets requiring stretching or the use of stools to reach utensils. These seemingly simple but risky actions are frequent fall triggers. The recommendation is to reorganize cabinets, keeping everyday items at waist or chest height. This eliminates the need to climb onto chairs, stools, or makeshift ladders, behaviors that are among the most dangerous at home. The fourth point involves poorly positioned utensils and appliances. Pan handles turned outward, blenders with loose cords or makeshift extensions on the floor exponentially increase the risk of tripping. Additionally, the effort of carrying very heavy pans filled with water or hot food can cause imbalance and falls, especially in elderly people with reduced muscle strength. The practical orientation is simple. Use smaller pots, keep cords behind appliances, and always turn handles inward on the stove. Kitchen lighting also deserves attention. Many falls occur because the space is not properly lit, especially at night or early in the morning. Strong bulbs, preferably white light, ensure that the elderly can clearly see obstacles and avoid tripping on small objects. A well-lit kitchen not only facilitates food preparation, but also drastically increases safety. Finally, it is crucial to highlight the fasihian footwear used in the kitchen. Many elderly people have the habit of cooking in flip-flops, barefoot, or even wearing socks, which increases the risk of slipping on smooth surfaces. The use of closed, firm, non-slip shoes is a simple but highly effective preventive measure. This detail, combined with organization and lighting, can transform cooking into a safe and enjoyable activity. With this checklist applied, clear floors, safe countertops, accessible cabinets, well-positioned utensils, adequate lighting, and proper footwear, the kitchen ceases to be a minefield of small hazards and becomes a safe, functional space. The key is understanding that each adjustment represents one less barrier against falls, preserving the autonomy and quality of life of elderly people. The hallway and living room are often considered safe spaces by families and even by the elderly themselves, precisely because they do not concentrate water or utensils like the bathroom and kitchen. However, it is in this false sense of safety that some of the greatest invisible fall triggers reside. These environments, as circulation and social areas, tend to accumulate furniture, decorative objects, and electronic cables that, combined with insufficient lighting, create a constant risk scenario. The danger increases at night when the elderly get up to go to the bathroom or kitchen and must cross the hallway and living room with reduced vision, slower reflexes, and without adequate support. It is during this seemingly simple path that thousands of falls occur every year. The first point of the checklist is the unlighting of hallways and the living room. The lack of well-distributed light points turns these spaces into true mazes at night. Elderly people need 3 times more light to perceive details compared to younger individuals, which makes dimness a dangerous enemy. The practical solution involves installing low-consumption LED lamps in strategic points, such as hallways and near the bed, as well as using automatic nightlights that turn on when they detect movement. This adjustment eliminates the risk of tripping over invisible obstacles in the dark. The second point involves the unorganization of furniture. Sofas, coffee tables, shelves, and poorly positioned armchairs reduce circulation space and force elderly people to maneuver tightly, increasing the risk of imbalance. The rule is simple. The house must have free corridors, with enough space for a person using a cane, walker, or crutches. Unnecessary or decorative furniture that blocks passage must be removed or repositioned. Creating free routes is essential to ensure safe movement. Another critical point is wires and electrical cables scattered on the floor. With multiple electronic devices such as televisions, chargers, fans, and sound systems, cables often cross walking areas and become traps. Many elderly people trip precisely over these cords, falling abruptly. The recommendation is to use cable organizers, place wires close to walls, and avoid improvised extensions crossing the room. This is a simple, inexpensive measure that eliminates a highly underestimated risk. The fourth point of the checklist is the use of rugs in the living room and hallway. As in bedrooms and bathrooms, rugs are one of the leading causes of falls, especially when loose or without proper grip. Coffee table rugs, for example, can slide easily on smooth floors, while fluffy models make it harder to step firmly. The solution is to secure rugs with anti-slip tape, or preferably, remove them completely from circulation. A detail often overlooked is the height of furniture and decorative objects. Very low coffee tables, scattered stools, and ornaments along the way become invisible obstacles at night or for those with vision problems. Many elderly people bump into these items, lose balance, and fall. Adjusting furniture height, keeping only essential pieces, and reorganizing decorative objects are measures that drastically reduce this type of risk. Finally, the hallway and living room checklist should include the creation of firm support points. Unlike bathrooms where grab bars are indispensable, in these spaces it is often enough to keep solid furniture, such as sturdy armchairs and stable tables, in strategic places, so the elderly have something to hold on to in case of imbalance. Avoiding fragile furniture that slips or tips over easily is also fundamental. With these measures, adequate lighting, organized furniture, controlled cables, safe rugs, adjusted furniture height, and firm support points, the living room and hallway cease to be hidden traps and become safe circulation spaces. Each simple adjustment in these environments can prevent serious accidents and preserve autonomy, turning everyday paths into safe movements. The bedroom is the most intimate and personal space in the house, but it can also hide silent dangers that become major threats for elderly people. It is precisely in this environment where the elderly spend hours resting and move around in moments of drowsiness or reduced attention that the risk of falls increases considerably. Many incidents recorded in hospitals happen when elderly individuals get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom or kitchen, in poorly lit bedrooms with loose rugs, beds at inadequate heights, or disorganized furniture. The vulnerability is even greater because nighttime falls occur in a state of reduced alertness when vision and reflexes are impaired. That is why the bedroom must be treated as one of the most strategic points in accident prevention. The first item on the checklist is the height of the bed. A bed that is too low requires extra effort to get up, increasing the chance of losing balance. On the other hand, a bed that is too high may make it difficult to sit firmly before standing up. The ideal height is one that allows the elderly to rest their feet fully on the floor when sitting on the edge, keeping the knees at a 90-degree angle. This simple adjustment reduces physical effort and provides stability at the most critical moment, which is the transition from lying down to standing. The second point involves night lighting. A dark bedroom may be comforting for sleep, but it poses a great risk during nighttime movements. Many elderly people fall by tripping over furniture or objects they cannot see in the dark. The practical solution is installing automatic night lights with motion sensors placed near the bed and along the path to the bathroom. These lights provide enough clarity to ensure safety without disturbing sleep. Another effective measure is having an easily accessible switch by the bed, eliminating the need to cross the room in the dark. The third crucial point is the use of rugs in the bedroom. As in other rooms, loose or non-adherent rugs are among the biggest fall hazards. In the bedroom, where elderly people may get up while still sleepy or dizzy, the danger is even greater. Ideally, rugs should be completely removed, but if indispensable, they must be fixed to the floor with anti-slip tape. In addition, fluffy or folded rugs that make it difficult to walk steadily should be avoided. Another essential aspect is the organization of furniture. Many bedrooms accumulate small tables, chairs, coat racks, and other objects near the bed, creating unnecessary obstacles. For elderly people, who often need canes or walkers, poorly positioned furniture represents daily risks. The recommendation is to leave free space around the bed and keep only essential furniture, organized so as not to obstruct passage. The fifth item on the checklist involves accessibility to frequently used objects. Phones, glasses, medications, and water should always be within reach, placed on a stable nightstand by the bed. This prevents the elderly from having to stretch or get up in a hurry, situations that often result in falls. This simple measure provides not only safety, but also comfort and autonomy. Finally, it is important to consider the ventilation and thermal comfort of the bedroom. Although not directly related to falls, very low or high temperatures can cause dizziness, hypertension, or disorientation, increasing the risk of nighttime accidents. Ensuring the bedroom has adequate ventilation, comfortable bedding, and balanced climate control contributes to more peaceful sleep and safer movements. With this checklist applied, ideal bed height, efficient night lighting, removal or fixing of rugs, well-organized furniture, accessible objects, and thermal comfort, the bedroom ceases to be a vulnerable space and becomes a safe environment for rest and movement. Each carefully planned detail is one less barrier against falls, allowing elderly people to enjoy restful nights without putting their health at risk. Up to this point, we have spoken about environmental adjustments, but the truth is that no fully adapted home can guarantee absolute safety if the elderly body is not prepared to face the natural challenges of aging. The human body undergoes inevitable transformations after the age of 60, loss of muscle mass, reduced bone density, slower reflexes, and decreased joint elasticity. These factors combined make the body more vulnerable to falls. However, the good news is that there are highly effective strategies to strengthen muscles, bones, and reflexes, restoring stability and confidence in elderly individuals. In this sense, Physical exercise and balance training are not just complementary activities, but the true foundation of prevention. The first essential point is strength training. Sarcopenia, or loss of muscle mass, is one of the main risk factors for falls and begins to intensify after the age of 50. Without strength in the legs, hips, and abdomen, the elderly cannot maintain a firm stride or recover from small stumbles. Simple exercises, such as sitting and standing from a chair, climbing short steps, or using resistance bands, already promote significant gains in strength and stability. The key is regularity, with exercises adapted to each person's physical condition and preferably supervised by a physical education professional or physiotherapist. The second aspect is balance and motor coordination training. With age, the vestibular system, located in the inner ear, loses efficiency, making it difficult to maintain posture and body control. To compensate for this, activities such as Tai Chi, yoga, Pilates, and even walking on slightly uneven surfaces help the body regain a sense of stability. Scientific studies show that balance programs can reduce the risk of falls in the elderly by up to 30%, precisely because they teach the body to react more quickly to unexpected imbalances. Another crucial factor is regular stretching. Rigid and shortened muscles increase the risk of tripping and imbalance, as well as making everyday movements such as bending down or turning the body more difficult. Light stretches performed daily increase flexibility and reduce the chance of sudden movements leading to falls. The secret is consistency. A few minutes each day are enough to generate significant cumulative benefits. Bone health must also be considered. Without strong bones, any fall, no matter how small, can result in a fracture. Practicing light impact exercises, such as regular walking, helps maintain bone density. In addition, a diet rich in calcium and vitamin D or supplementation when prescribed by a doctor strengthens bone structure and reduces the probability of serious injuries in the event of falls. We must not forget the psychological impact of exercise. Elderly individuals who remain active gain more than just strength and balance. They also develop confidence in walking. Fear of falling is a serious issue that leads many to restrict movement, further reducing muscle mass and creating a cycle of fragility. By feeling stronger and more stable, the elderly regain self-confidence, expand mobility, and resume daily activities independently. This emotional effect is as important as the physical one, as it reduces anxiety and improves overall quality of life. Finally, preventive physiotherapy must be seen as an indispensable ally. Many families only seek a physiotherapist after a fall, when the elderly person is already injured and weakened. However, preventive programs tailored to individual needs are extremely effective in reducing risks before accidents occur. Professional monitoring allows posture correction, gait improvement, and the recommendation of adapted exercises, ensuring safety in every movement. Therefore, strengthening the body through strength training, balance, stretching, bone care, and preventive physiotherapy is not just a recommendation, it is a vital investment in autonomy and safety. An adapted home provides protection, but it is the strengthened body that sustains each step. Together, environment and exercise form the most powerful duo against the falls that threaten the lives and independence of elderly individuals. Technology has ceased to be a resource aimed only at young people or the workplace, and today it has become an essential tool for the health and safety of elderly people. When it comes to fall prevention, technological advances offer increasingly accessible solutions, capable of monitoring, detecting, and even anticipating risks. The correct use of these resources can transform the routine of a person over 60, increasing autonomy and ensuring peace of mind for the whole family. Contrary to the idea that technology is synonymous with complexity, many of the tools available today have been designed specifically to be simple, intuitive, and adapted to the needs of older adults. One of the most effective resources is the Cat Fall Alarm, Marcinma. These devices can be worn as bracelets, necklaces, or even embedded in smartwatches. The technology is capable of automatically identifying sudden movements or impacts, sending immediate alerts to family members or emergency services. This rapid response is critical, as many complications after a fall do not result from the accident itself, but from delays in care. The sooner the elderly person receives help, the greater the chances of recovery without severe consequences. Another important innovation lies in smart and non-slip floors. Engineering companies have developed coverings that increase grip even when in contact with water or grease, drastically reducing the risk of slipping. In addition, sensors embedded in certain models can detect abnormal movements in the environment and trigger alarms. Although still less common in Brazil, these technologies are beginning to gain space in homes adapted for elderly people, particularly in bathrooms and kitchens. Home automation is also a great ally. Systems that allow lights to be turned on and off by voice command, motion sensors that light up hallways at night, and even automatic curtains that prevent dark environments directly contribute to safety. Many accidents happen because the elderly must cross a dark space in search of a light switch. With automation, this risk disappears, ensuring immediate and safe lighting in every room. Another expanding resource is the use of health monitoring apps connected to mobile devices. These apps allow real-time tracking of blood pressure, heart rate, blood oxygen levels, and even sleep patterns. This type of information helps doctors and family members identify vulnerabilities that may predispose someone to falls, such as dizziness, low blood pressure, or sleep disorders. Thus, continuous monitoring serves as a preventive alert, allowing medical adjustments or lifestyle changes before accidents occur. It is also worth highlighting the arrival of smart walkers and canes, equipped with motion sensors, imbalance alarms, and even app connectivity. These devices provide physical support while analyzing the elderly person's gait in real time, helping correct instabilities and predict risk situations. Unlike traditional models, smart devices function as extensions of wearable technology, combining physical support with health information. It is important to remember that technology does not replace basic environmental adaptations, but rather complements them. A safe home, with fixed rugs, adequate lighting, and well-positioned furniture, gains even more protection when combined with alert and monitoring systems. The result is a safety ecosystem that not only reduces fall risks, but also ensures quick and effective responses if an accident occurs. With the democratization of these resources, more and more elderly people now have access to technologies once restricted to hospitals and clinics. This represents a paradigm shift. Prevention is no longer confined to the medical setting, but becomes part of daily home life. In the end, technology as a fall prevention ally means more independence, more peace of mind for families, and above all, more years of life with autonomy and dignity. The biggest barrier many families face when discussing fall prevention is believing that adapting a home for an elderly person requires expensive, time-consuming, and complex renovations. This mistaken view leads to inaction and causes urgent measures to be constantly postponed until an accident occurs. The reality is very different. It is possible to transform a dangerous residence into a safe space in just one weekend, with practical, simple, and low-cost actions. This action plan is like a safety task force that can be carried out in 48 hours, involving family members, caregivers, and even neighbors willing to collaborate. The first step is to map all risk triggers. This step must be carried out with attention to detail, walking through the house while observing loose rugs, exposed wires, poorly positioned furniture, and poorly lit areas. Writing down each identified point creates a clear list of what needs correction, avoiding improvisation. It is essential to think as the elderly person thinks and moves. What path do they take from bed to bathroom? Where do they usually hold on? Where have they tripped or complained about insecurity before? This detailed perspective is the foundation of any effective plan. The second step is to immediately eliminate the most obvious risks. Loose rugs should be removed or fixed with non-slip tape. Scattered wires must be secured to walls or organized with cable channels. Furniture obstructing passageways should be repositioned or removed. These measures require no significant financial investment, only time and willingness to reorganize spaces. The impact, however, is immediate, considerably reducing fall risks from day one. The third step is the installation of support resources. Here, grab bars in bathrooms, shower benches, handrails on stairs, and automatic nightlights in hallways come into play. These items can be purchased at hardware or medical supply stores and installed within a few hours. The rule is simple. Every room should offer the elderly person firm support and adequate lighting, eliminating the need for improvisation during movement. The fourth step is to adapt the bedroom for nighttime safety. This includes adjusting bed height, keeping frequently used objects within easy reach such as glasses and medications, and installing soft, continuous lighting for nighttime movements. This step is especially important because many falls occur during the night at times of drowsiness or disorientation. The fifth step of the plan is to organize the kitchen and common areas. Everyday items should be stored on low, accessible shelves, avoiding the need for elderly people to climb stools or stretch excessively. Heavy pots should be replaced with smaller, lighter models, and appliance cords should be collected so they do not cross passage areas. This practical adjustment eliminates risks during meal preparation, a moment when many elderly people suffer accidents. The sixth step is to review footwear and daily habits. Guiding elderly individuals to wear closed, firm, non-slip shoes even at home is a simple measure that greatly increases safety. In addition, encouraging breaks during household tasks helps prevent fatigue, dizziness, and imbalance that may result in falls. Small habit adjustments add to environmental changes, creating a more stable routine. Finally, the seventh step is to test circulation in the already adapted home. Ideally, the elderly person should walk through the rooms accompanied, simulating their usual routes. This helps identify whether there are still unsafe points and allows for additional corrections. This final step also builds confidence in the elderly, as they realize their home is now prepared to protect them, reducing fear of falling and reinforcing autonomy. With this action plan concentrated in a single weekend, it is possible to eliminate up to 80% of fall triggers, ensuring safety and peace of mind for the entire family. The most important thing is to understand that each adjustment made is a direct investment in the life and independence of the elderly. In just 2 days of organized work, the home ceases to be an invisible threat and becomes a space of protection and care, capable of prolonging health and preventing unnecessary hospitalizations. After going through every room in the house and understanding the seriousness of falls among the elderly, it is time to gather all the guidelines into one practical material: the PON Final Anti-Fall Checklist. A simple and direct guide that can be printed and placed on the refrigerator, in the bedroom, or anywhere visible in the house. This checklist works as a constant reminder for seniors, families, and caregivers, reinforcing that prevention lies in the details and that small changes in habits and organization save lives. It must be clear, objective, and divided by rooms, so that anyone can immediately apply the recommendations without the need for long explanations. Bathroom. Check daily if the grab bars are firm, if there is a non-slip mat in the shower, if the toilet has the proper height, if the shower chair is available, and if the night lighting is working. Make sure shampoos and soaps are always on accessible shelves, never on the floor. Kitchen. Keep the floor free of objects and liquids. Use non-slip mats only in front of the sink and stove. Store pots and utensils in low accessible cabinets. Avoid using heavy pans. Organize appliance cords and make sure lighting is sufficient. Remember, never climb on chairs or stools to reach high shelves. Hallway and living room. Ensure that lighting is efficient, especially at night. Install automatic presence lights if possible. Keep hallways free of furniture or decorative objects. Organize wires and cables along the walls. Remove loose rugs or fix them with non-slip tape. And keep furniture sturdy enough to serve as support in case of imbalance. Bedroom. Adjust the bed height so that the feet are firmly on the floor when sitting. Remove or fix rugs. Keep the space around the bed free of obstacles. Place frequently used objects on a stable nightstand. Install night lighting with motion sensors, and keep bedding and blankets easy to handle to avoid tangles or tripping. Exercise and body. Include regular activities for muscle strengthening, balance, and stretching, preferably with professional supervision. Encourage light walks and preventive physiotherapy programs. Recommend the daily use of closed, non-slip shoes, even inside the house. Technology and habits. Use fall alarms or smartwatches when possible. Consider simple home automation for lighting. Keep easy contact with family members, phone or accessible emergency button, and avoid risky habits such as standing up too quickly or carrying heavy objects. This checklist can be printed as a safe home map, highlighting each room and its main adjustments. More than a visual reminder, it works as a family commitment to the health and safety of the elderly. When each item is checked and applied, the house ceases to be a risk environment and becomes a space prepared to welcome, protect, and ensure autonomy. Placed in a visible location, the checklist serves as a daily reminder that prevention is not theory, but constant practice that saves lives. Throughout this script, it has become clear that falls in the elderly are not trivial accidents, but events of great impact that can change lives in a matter of seconds. With more than 62,000 hospitalizations recorded in just the first 4 months of 2025, the problem can no longer be seen as something isolated, but rather as a silent epidemic that requires an urgent response. Falling is, in fact, the traffic accident inside the home, and it can only be fought with the same seriousness with which we face other public health threats. The most important thing is to understand that prevention does not depend on large investments or complex renovations. It comes from the sum of simple adjustments in the home environment, combined with physical strengthening and the intelligent use of technology. Each room in the house holds risks, but also practical solutions within any family's reach. The bathroom, with grab bars and non-slip floors, ceases to be a trap. The kitchen, reorganized with accessible cabinets and adequate lighting, becomes functional and safe. Hallways and living rooms, when free of wires and obstacles, turn into safe routes. The bedroom, adjusted with the right bed height and nightlight, becomes a restful environment without dangers. At the same time, strength, balance, and stretching exercises ensure that the body is prepared to sustain each step with confidence, while technology acts as a silent guardian, monitoring, alerting, and supporting when necessary. More than preventing falls, this set of measures gives the elderly something even more valuable: autonomy. An elderly person who walks safely inside their own home lives with more freedom, less fear, and better quality of life. Prevention is not only about avoiding fractures or hospitalizations, but about preserving independence and dignity, allowing each person to continue living their routine fully and maintaining an active role within the family and society. When families and caregivers understand this dimension, they stop seeing adaptations as heavy tasks and start seeing them as direct investments in the well-being and happiness of their loved ones. The final message is simple and powerful. Falls are not inevitable, falls are preventable. The combination of environmental, physical, and technological care can eliminate up to 80% of risk triggers in just one dedicated weekend. It is possible to transform a dangerous house into a safe and welcoming space with accessible, inexpensive, and quick measures. What is at stake is not just reducing numbers in statistics, but the concrete protection of the lives, health, and independence of thousands of elderly people. Therefore, each family must face fall prevention as a priority, just as they care about medical checkups or healthy eating. By applying this plan, the home becomes a shield against accidents, and the elderly regain confidence in their steps. In the end, the true victory lies not only in avoiding hospitalizations, but in building a reality where aging means continuing to live with safety, autonomy, and fulfillment. Falls among older adults are not merely an individual health issue, but a collective problem that directly impacts society and the national economy. When we look at the data from 2025, more than 62,000 hospitalizations in just 4 months, it becomes clear that we are facing a growing and continuous demand on the healthcare system. Each hospitalization generates medical expenses, surgeries, physiotherapy, prosthetic use, and long periods of rehabilitation. The financial burden falls largely on the Unified Health System, SUS, which must allocate billions of reais annually to deal with accidents that could have been avoided with simple preventive measures. Money that could have been invested in health promotion programs, hospital infrastructure, or technological innovation is consumed by the treatment of the consequences of falls. In addition to direct costs related to hospitalizations and treatments, there are also indirect costs, often invisible in statistics. When an older adult suffers a serious fall, they frequently lose autonomy and begin to depend on family members for basic activities, such as eating, dressing, or moving around. This means children, grandchildren, or other relatives must reorganize their routines, often leaving jobs or reducing working hours to provide care. The economic impact multiplies because, beyond public health spending, there is also a loss of productivity in the labor market and an increase in emotional and financial strain on already overburdened families. From a social perspective, falls have a deep effect on the quality of life of older adults. Many develop a fear of moving around, restricting activities and reducing social interactions. This limitation results in isolation, depression, and an acceleration of cognitive decline. An accident that could have been avoided, therefore, triggers a cascade of social, emotional, and mental health problems that extend beyond the individual, affecting the entire family network. The isolation of older adults due to fear of falling is a growing, silent problem that weakens not only the person but the social fabric as a whole. It is important to highlight that falls among older adults also have repercussions in public policies. Population aging in Brazil is rapid. By 2030, the country will have more older adults than children of school age. This means that, if no preventive measures are taken now, the number of falls and hospitalizations may double or triple in the next decade, overloading hospitals, reducing resources available for other areas of healthcare, and amplifying regional inequalities. Each fall avoided today represents not only a preserved life, but also future savings for the country. Another critical point is the impact on social security and welfare systems. Older adults who lose autonomy after falls often require early retirement, sick leave, welfare benefits, and caregiver support funded by the state. This scenario increases public spending in an indirect and permanent way. Unlike a one-time hospitalization, the dependency caused by a severe fall can last for years, requiring continuous investments in long-term care. Finally, we cannot forget the cultural impact. In a society that still associates aging with inevitable frailty, falls reinforce the stigma that old age is synonymous with incapacity. This stigma must be challenged with information and awareness. Healthy and active aging is possible, but it depends on a culture that values prevention, exercise, environmental adaptations, and the use of accessible technologies. Transforming this collective mindset is just as important as installing bathroom rails or removing rugs from the living room. The social and economic impact of falls, therefore, goes far beyond hospital statistics. We are talking about billions of reais spent annually, overburdened families, isolated older adults, and a pressured healthcare system. But we are also talking about an opportunity. Every investment in prevention generates immediate returns in lives preserved, reduced costs, and the construction of a society that ages with more dignity and less fear. The challenge of falls among older adults is not unique to Brazil. Many countries face the same problem due to the accelerated aging of their populations. The difference lies in how each nation has responded to this issue. Some places have become global references by transforming prevention policies into efficient programs that drastically reduced fall and hospitalization rates. Observing these international examples is essential to show that it is indeed possible to change the Brazilian scenario, provided there is planning, investment, and most importantly, collective awareness. One of the most emblematic cases is Japan, one of the most aged countries on the planet. There, falls among older adults are treated as a public health priority, and homes are adapted early to reduce risks. The government encourages the installation of non-slip floors, support bars, and smart lighting, offering subsidies to families who make adaptations. In addition, Japanese older adults actively participate in community exercise programs focused on muscle strengthening and balance, such as Radio Taiso, a group exercise broadcast on radio and television for decades. This combination of adapted environments and prepared bodies has allowed Japan to drastically reduce severe fracture rates related to falls. In Sweden, the strategy is to integrate technology into prevention. The country has invested in home monitoring systems, with sensors installed in hallways and bathrooms that detect abnormal movements and automatically trigger emergency services. There are also government programs that distribute personal fall alarms to older adults living alone, ensuring rapid response in case of an accident. This model has reduced not only mortality, but also hospital costs, showing that technology, when well applied, is an investment that pays off quickly. Another important example comes from Canada, which implemented community programs aimed at raising family awareness. The government distributes printed checklists, similar to the Safe Home Map, in health clinics and public campaigns, teaching the population how to adapt each room. In addition, physiotherapists work within the primary health network, offering practical guidance for fall prevention during regular appointments. This integration between the healthcare system and the community has made Canada a reference in primary prevention, addressing the problem even before the first accident occurs. In Australia, the focus has been on housing policies. The country developed building standards requiring that new houses be designed with accessibility and safety for older adults in mind. This means that steps, slippery floors, and narrow corridors are eliminated from the architectural plan. In addition, national media campaigns constantly warn about fall risks, reinforcing the idea that prevention begins at home. This long-term vision has allowed the country to age with fewer domestic accidents. Finally, New Zealand deserves mention, where rural communities developed support networks among neighbours to reduce risks in the homes of older adults. Local programs encourage volunteers to regularly visit older people, helping rearrange furniture, install supports, and check lighting. This model of community solidarity has shown significant results, especially in areas with less access to public services. These international examples make it clear that confronting falls requires more than individual measures. It depends on public policies, infrastructure investments, and cultural change. Brazil can draw inspiration from these experiences to build its own model, adapted to the local reality but with the same goal: reducing falls, preserving lives, and ensuring dignified aging. The message is that this is not an unsolvable challenge. There are already tested and successful solutions worldwide, and adapting them to our context can radically transform the reality of Brazilian older adults. We have reached the point where information must turn into practice. Falls in older adults can no longer be seen as inevitable accidents, but as preventable events that require shared responsibility among families, healthcare professionals, governments, and society itself. Each one has a decisive role in this process, and the sum of these actions is what can truly transform the concerning scenario of more than 62,000 hospitalizations recorded in just 4 months of 2025. Preventing falls means saving lives, preserving autonomy, reducing costs, and ensuring that aging in Brazil is accompanied by dignity and not by fear. The first call is for families. They are the ones who know the routines, the paths, and the vulnerabilities of older adults inside the home. Removing rugs, installing grab bars, organizing furniture, and investing in proper footwear are not details. They are decisions that can make the difference between safety and a serious accident. In addition, family members should encourage and accompany physical exercise, build self-confidence, and be alert to signs of frailty, such as dizziness or difficulty standing up. Every gesture of care is one more barrier against falls. The second call is for healthcare professionals. Doctors, physiotherapists, nurses, and physical educators need to take the lead in prevention. Assessing fall risk should be part of every consultation with older adults, as well as guiding practical measures to adapt environments and improve physical condition. Prevention must be seen as just as important as the treatment of chronic diseases. It is the integration of a strengthened body, an adapted home, and professional monitoring that generates the best results. The third call is for the high public sector. Without strong public policies, fall prevention will remain limited to isolated initiatives. It is necessary to invest in national awareness campaigns, offer subsidies for home adaptations, and integrate preventive physiotherapy into primary healthcare services. International experience shows that government programs reduce falls, hospital costs, and save lives on a large scale. Brazil needs to make this issue a strategic priority in public health. Finally, there is a call to Machian society as a whole. It is necessary to combat the stigma that aging is synonymous with inevitable frailty. Older adults are not condemned to fall. They can and should age with autonomy and safety. This requires cultural change, solidarity, and engagement. Every neighbor who helps, every community that supports, every person who guides or lends a hand to an older adult contributes to building a fairer and more caring society. The collective commitment is clear. Preventing falls is protecting lives. It is not just a health issue, but one of dignity, respect, and responsibility toward a generation that built the country and deserves to age with safety. The final message should resonate in every home. Falls are not fate, they are choices. Choices of adaptation, of care, and of action. If everyone does their part, at home, in their profession, or in public policies, Brazil can drastically reduce this problem and build a future where aging is celebrated as an achievement and not feared as a risk.